there, Mandy Friedman here, licensed professional clinical counselor, clinically certified domestic violence counselor, clinically certified trauma professional, level 2, the creator of SNAP, survivors of narcissistic and abusive personalities. Back to talk about Succession with my brother, Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Mandy. Today, America decides, and we're going to talk all about it. It starts off with Tom and Greg together, and they are kind of going to be the workhorses. They're in charge of this whole election coverage here at ATN. And Greg has done some things to help Tom. Tom has asked him to do some things to help him. Can you tell us about Tom and Greg?
Well, we see that Tom is really stressed out. Greg is, hey, how you doing? He's like, well, let's see, and he lists all the things that he has going on. And Greg is like figuring out what his role is supposed to be for the day. And he finds out that he will be Gregging today, that Tom needs Greg to Greg. Greg's a little disappointed about this. He thought he was not having to do those kinds of things anymore. But really what it is that Tom needs that security blanket of having Greg right next to him. And he wants him to make his coffees. He's saying that if he doesn't have his coffee and if his mind isn't right, that basically it could be the end of the world as we know it.
They think everything they do is so important. And, in this episode, it kind of is. And so, it really helps fill their egos.
At the same moment, you hear Greg is making his big moves like he normally does by, dealing in information. And he's reporting to Tom about how Mattson was partying with him the night before and, the kinds of things that they did. And the topic of Shiv came up, and he lets Tom know that Shiv might have some backdoor dealings going on with Mattson. And he says to Tom, what do you want me to do about this? Do you want me to take care of her? He's like talking tough. And Tom says, information is like a fine bottle of wine. You store it, you hoard it, you save it for a special occasion, and then you smash someone's fucking face in with it. He's saying, we might do something with this information about Shiv. I don't know, but let me teach you something. You're going to sit on it. And remember, that's one of the tactics that abusive and narcissistically abusive people use, is they weaponize information. And he's literally describing how to use information as a weapon. But also, Greg was like, do you want me to get you that stuff he asked for? And Tom's like, nah, first deny, turning it down. And I knew right away what he's talking about. And then they go behind a whiteboard and hide doing cocaine right there to start off the day. So no better way to face the day at work, a tough day at work, is to do some cocaine.
Tom forces Greg to do it too. Greg says he doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want to get addicted. 2 nights in a row? Come on. He's just feeling normal again. Tom is in charge of ATN, and so he is running around like a chicken with his head cut off for this whole episode. There is an issue with the touch screens, and he loses his mind and screams at everybody, but he's also getting screamed at, because one of the things that's great about the show is the geography. We have one floor, which is the ATN floor, and a floor above, the kids are up there. They're in charge of the people who are in charge. So it's a lot of layers. We have Shiv up there. She is trying to manipulate from every angle. She's trying to make sure that no matter what happens, she's going to be okay, because no one's looking out for her, right?
Yeah, she's definitely trying to find her place. And we see her making some moves, and not great moves, as it turns out.
Shiv has a conversation with Tom at one point. The kids keep coming down from above and getting down on the floor, and Greg's trying to Greg and corral them, but they keep kind of getting involved, right? Shiv pulls Tom away from everything, that he's kind of busy, and she drops some bombs on him.
She apologizes to him about the night before, where they had that big fight on the terrace, and kind of wants an apology back from him. And he says that, well, you sort of killed your dad.
Sort of.
Like, they're at war, last he knew, and they were saying really mean things to each other. And so he's, she, like you said, she's pulling him away from something really important and making this the most important thing. And they have a little bit of a back and forth, and she says, yeah, well, I'm pregnant and it's yours, so there you go. He does not believe her, and this really hurts her feelings that he thinks that she would use a pregnancy to manipulate him in that moment, although isn't that what she's doing?
You could see in Tom's eyes, though, he wants to believe it.
After she drops that bomb and it doesn't go over well, she runs straight to her brothers immediately and is like rallying them against Tom and saying, Tom can't be trusted, just so you know. And Kendall's like, okay, we've got your back, you know, like, because they know that she has felt betrayed by them during this situation with Tom. And so she's basically saying to them, like, I need you to be on my side here. And they, in a very half-hearted way, seem to appear like they're going to be on her side in that moment. But she tried the trick of dropping the pregnancy bomb. It didn't work. She tried the trick of apologizing. It didn't work. And so she runs straight to her brothers.
We have the two siblings, Shiv and Roman, kind of representing the right and the left. Shiv is also the back channel to the left leaning candidate Jimenez. And while she is the back channel to him, Roman is the back channel to the right leaning candidate Mencken. What does Roman do during this episode, Mandy?
Roman is trying to do what he thinks his father would be doing, but he doesn't really get his dad. Like, he thinks of his dad as this scary figure who just does whatever he wants. That's what he keeps saying throughout the episode. What would dad do? He would do whatever the fuck he wants. Dad would just do whatever the fuck he wants. You know, we control everything. We say how it goes. And fuck everybody. And then furthermore, any mention of doing the right thing, that maybe, you know, we should consider good versus evil here, that it maybe isn't just our normal type of a race here, that we have something bigger brewing, he would belittle and mimic and mock that be, for the good of the country. And that shows you that that's what he thought his dad was. You know, that's the way he revered his dad, is that his dad would be belittling anyone that had any kind of empathy or compassion, and that he would be doing whatever the fuck he wants at any time and controlling all of it and telling everyone what to do. But I think that's just a really underdeveloped way of looking at his dad. His dad, yeah, evil guy, did whatever the fuck he wants, sure. But he was a lot more Machiavellian about it at times of his life. He wasn't necessarily a bull in a china shop all the time. You have to be able to play the game by fitting into the circles that you want to have power with. And if you're actually just a little kid running around with toys and not knowing what you're doing, you're not really necessarily garnering any respect or power. It's just you're taking your daddy's name around and going, well, you know who I was related to, but he doesn't have anything really to offer anybody as he's trying to make these moves. But I noticed that Roman is the least compassionate of the kids, and he's the one that keeps talking about what his dad would do.
There are mentions of right-wing groups going around doing things, in the background of this episode, setting a fire to burn ballots, beating people up, Nazi vans rolling around and beating up left-leaning voters. And Roman calls them fun vans. And that's how he describes it. And he giggles to himself. And it's disgusting. And I always like Roman because he's funny. But this episode, I hate all of them. I hate them all. I even hate Greg in this episode. They're all pieces of shit.
Remember that cruelty is an acceptable language in this family. And the more cruel you are, the more clout you might have. And people were very cruel to Roman. And they played the dog game, where they go into the dog pound and he's in the cage and they feed him dog food. He was abused in a very cruel way. And then the man and the person in charge of all the abuse is revered as one of those powerful people in the world. right? And so that's who he looks up to, even though inside Roman is just a flaccid little weak worm of a person. He's hollow, he's cowardly, he has low self-esteem and kind of shame, and he has a mommy issue, a sex issue, and intimacy issues. He's got all kinds of problems, but boy, he sure does like to bark loud. His lack of compassion is more pronounced for some reason, and I wonder if it's because he must have been abused the worst out of all of the kids.
He's literally impotent, and there's a term that people use, impotent rage, but like Roman is impotent depression. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have rage, he has depression from this, and so he lashes out because of that, but it comes out as this weird childish thing, and it's gross, and it's really gross in this episode. We also have Connor floating around, and Connor is still running for president. Damn it, he's not going to concede because he didn't get his position in Mencken's cabinet yet. So he's floating around, and he has a conversation with Roman at one point. It's one of my favorite Connor scenes because he just rhymes a bunch of times, trying to get different positions in the cabinet, and they're very funny. And Roman's reaction is, "Oh, your rhymes are very compelling." It doesn't laugh at all.
You know, Connor is ever the opportunist. He's not trying to hide it at all. He's holding out as long as he needs to for something, and then now he might be willing to concede in, you know, someone's favor if that gets him some, you know, very transactional. Remember that abusive people, narcissistic people, everything's a transaction, and he's just looking around for what other transactions he can possibly make. But at first, he's irritated because he's not getting any coverage by ATN. You know, there's a news crew from ATN there, and he keeps watching ATN and nothing's going. He's like, he said, "Is there film in these cameras?" You know, someone says, "Well, if anything's going to help us, it'll be Kentucky." And then when Kentucky didn't come through, Willa says to him, "You know, fuck Kentucky." And he said, no. Like, I'm not going to be one of those. Alas, Kentucky. And then he says, "Alas, vanity." What that tells me is that Connor, even though he's in the same basket as the rest of them, he has a lot more self-awareness than some of them do. Like, certainly more self-aware than Kendall. Certainly more self-aware than Roman. Self-aware like Tom? Maybe not. But he's not trying to be someone that he isn't, even though he's trying to be the president of the United States, if that makes any sense. He's just being Connor. He wants to get his 100 million worth. He's invested 100 million here. What can he get out of it? And he's still just trying to make a transaction. He's not even taking it very personally, honestly. Like, as he doesn't get what he wants, it doesn't seem to slow him down or push him down. It just makes him go, "Well, let's try a different angle."
I really enjoyed that scene. Willa, being mean-spirited about Kentucky, and him being like, no, let us show them compassion as they trounce upon us. It is amazing. I think one of the focuses of the episode is Kendall. Kendall does many things throughout this episode, but most of it is sitting there looking despondent and thinking. We first meet him in this episode, and he has a conversation with Rava about the children that is wild.
So we know from the previous episode that something had already happened with the kids, that someone brushed past his daughter in the street. Rava was getting concerned. At first, Kendall got defensive and was being a jerk. But now he's seeing that this is not good. And it's not good for his kids in a number of ways. And he has put a tail on them. She's calling him to say, "I think we're being followed." And he's like, "Oh, yeah. The license plate number is it such and such?" She's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, that's my guy. Don't worry about that." Right? And she's like, "What?" This is what narcissistic people are like, okay? His idea of protecting his family was to do something that actually would make them feel the most unsafe. And then when they expressed to him that wasn't helpful and that he shouldn't do that, he tells them to like calm down and relax. and he knows he's on speaker, I think, or that, the kids can hear, and he's like, can you hear me? Daddy's not going to let anything happen to you. Everything's fine. Daddy's not going to let anything happen. And then that's, what we're kind of left with there is that he sees that his kids are scared, and he knows why they should be scared. He knows the kind of evil that they're tangling with, but he also knows what his lifelong dream and aspiration has been, and that is to be the CEO of Waystar Royco. And so throughout this episode, you see him contemplative, and you see Roman and Shiv presenting these differing sides. The sides that Kendall is choosing between has to do with himself versus his kids. That's who he's trying to decide, between is, do I do what's best for my children, or do I do what's best for me? And whatever lies he winds up needing to tell himself to make things okay is that, well, if it's best for me, then it is best for my kids, because then at least I have more sway and control and over things. But at the same time, I'm putting into power, or helping put into power, someone that would want my kids to be, I don't know what, deported or worse. So you can see him wrestling with that through those moments of him being more contemplative while Roman and Shiv are going at it.
In the past, Kendall has had these decisions made for him also. This time he has to make the decision himself until he reasons in his mind that it's been made for him. And that will happen late in the episode.
He hasn't been in this position before. And now that he has it, he's not sure what to do with it. At least that shows him as having another level of maturity. And, at least he's being contemplative. Roman's just like, let's get out the tiki torches. Like, he doesn't give a shit. And then you have Shiv, who you can see that she is afraid. She's afraid of a number of things. And one big thing is what's going to happen to her, of course. But I do think that she sees that this is different. This is evil. This isn't politics. This isn't about, oh, well, your side didn't win this time. That this is a different animal, and that they're gaining traction, and that they're on the wrong side of things right now, but not in a way that has to do with it's just politics.
Roman tells her that. He says, oh, it's my team versus your team. But in this case, if your team loses, my team shoots your team, with a big smile on his face. And that is the difference. You're right.
You can see that she's afraid. You can see that Kendall's afraid. You can see that, Rava's afraid. And yet business still somehow becomes the priority above all. That power and control and money is what is the most important thing.
Kendall's main motivation on the surface for this episode is he wants the candidate that is going to blow up the deal. That's what's going on. And he's made that plan with Roman. So Roman is doing everything he can to make that happen, right? He didn't make that plan with Shiv. And Shiv finds out in the middle of the episode that that is what this is all about. And she says, that's not what this is all about, is it? And it is what it's all about. This is what I mean when I say Kendall doesn't have to make the moral choice. He can make the business choice instead. And that's making the decision for him because he has no choice. He has to make the good business decision, right? So ATN is trying to make the decision. And again, this episode is called America Decides, which is ironic. And the decision is whether they're going to call certain states for Mencken, which would help him win the election. So they're trying to make this decision. Shiv is on one side, she is the angel on his shoulder in a way, but the angel also that isn't very good either. She's the lesser devil on one side. And then you have the giant devil on the other shoulder of Roman. And they all get in the same room together with some decision makers as well as Tom, and they hash this out. And this is kind of what the episode is all coming to.
Yes, and one person that you see in the mix is someone named Darwin. And Darwin, it must be an analyst or someone that comes in and does the elections with them. And he understands the laws and how everything works. And he's sort of, running things in a way to make sure that they are doing things above board. And it's funny how they don't listen to anything he says, and they tell him what to do and force him to do things that he is not comfortable with, but then, finding ways, loopholes, and so on and so forth. So they don't really care what anyone has to say about what they should be doing, right? Anytime someone offers a suggestion of like, well, here's what you're supposed to do, Roman's like, I don't give a fuck. This is what we're doing. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. And, operating outside of norms and boundaries and ethics and laws and just the way things are done. And you make a good point about Kendall having the decision made for him, because you're right. You would just have to follow good business sense. Like it all comes back to that, is that, well, if it's a good business decision, then it's the right decision. Roman's not really trying to make good business decisions, is he? He is trying to make power moves because he thinks it makes his dick look bigger. But what he doesn't understand is that it makes it look smaller. Yes. Because he looks desperate and he looks immature and like a little mini Hitler running around. And it's just not, it doesn't do for him what he thinks it should do. It's more self-defeating. Then again, there he is telling them what to do, and they do it. He goes down onto the floor and lets them know to go ahead and let, Ravenhead or whatever start his rant. And then Shiv sees that has, so she runs down to the floor to try to stop him. They're trying to put something together here and make that decision of, do we call it? Do we don't call it? What happens if we don't? What happens if we do? It's madness and chaos, and no one seems to really be in charge. And there is not that voice that is Logan's voice in the mix. Logan is missing, and the kids are in charge, and it is not good.
Kendall decides in his mind, and the acting is fucking out of this world in this episode, especially Kendall. It's unbelievable. Many times you could see thoughts. You can see the thoughts that he's having. It's very good. He makes a decision that let's reach out to Jimenez. They haven't even done it yet. They tried to through Nate, but they did it in a way that was messed up. So Kendall wants to reach out. Well, who is his conduit to Jimenez? It's Shiv. And he asks her to make the call. And Shiv fakes making the call. She doesn't want to make this call because she knows Jimenez is going to say no. And he's not going to play ball with them because they're evil. And they're doing evil things right now. So she fakes the call, and Kendall busts her. And this is what allows Kendall to let go of his decision-making and say, you know what? You lied to me. And the best thing is us getting this deal blown up. So got to go with Mencken. That is what gives him the permission to make his decision finally.
I think that's a really great way to word it. He was kind of looking for a sign, and her betraying him like that is what did it. That's the thing, is Roman's not torn. He wants to go this way because he thinks that he will be able to be close with Mencken, and like it'll be fun to have like a president on his arm like his dad did. Shiv is kind of in a similar position as Kendall. Not exactly, but at least they're torn, and that Shiv is trying to figure out what's best for her in the Gojo deal, but also what's best for the country. She is concerned, she's worried, she's scared. And then Kendall, being torn between the business decision versus the right decision. So they're similar in that sense, Shiv and Kendall. And so when he sees that she's not on his side, you're either with me or you're against me. That's how narcissistic families work. It's a polarizing effect that takes place. There's no middle ground. And so we're pretending like we're together, right? She's acting like that they're on the same team and using them for her own, moments, like running to the boys when she's like, Tom was mean to me, like she's doing her own moves. And she even says to Kendall in a way, like when he busts her, she's like, really? Like, you're going to be mad at me for doing what we're all doing right now? Like, why am I in trouble, right? When you guys are all working your angles too. She's the one that is the bad guy now. And that makes her mad when he makes it clear that he knows she's busted. That gives him permission. It's polarizing. And so if that's the team she's on, then he's got to be on the other team. And unfortunately, that other team is Mencken.
Also during this, Kendall gets the dirt from Greg about that she is working with Mattson as well. So oh, she's betrayed Kendall now, so she must pay. Kendall decides to go with Mencken. Tom makes the call, and Shiv calls him Pontius Pilate. The kids look on as Mencken gives a disgusting victory speech that is just, it's gross. And, Shiv gets on the phone to Mattson and decides that we got to fuck these brothers up more than I've ever wanted to do anything in my life. Kendall wants to see his kids, and this is also disgusting.
I mean, I hope you can see my eye roll, like, whatever. That's just him feeling guilty. It's not because he, feels bad that they've been scared all day. He didn't give a fuck about them being scared. Otherwise, he would have told them that, or at least told Rava, hey, I'm going to have somebody looking after you guys. Just want you to know that. Like, you're not being followed because of the divorce. You're being followed because I'm trying to protect you. But he probably has her followed all the time anyway. He mostly cared about what was going to happen with his role. But just now he feels bad because he knows that he once again made a decision that was not the fatherly decision to make. But look at who his father was. So
Tom has a line of people waiting to yell at him because of calling the wrong side or helping Mencken. In fact, on the other news networks, we hear some report about Tom and how he's in trouble or something like that. It all falls on him. It started with him this episode. It ended with him this episode. Mandy, we only have 2 left.
And the next one, it might be the best one. I mean, there have been some really good episodes, but the next one is going to be really interesting to dig into, and I can't wait.
Next time on this show, we will bury Logan Roy.
And thank you for watching, for listening. Goodbye.